Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa and I teach second grade in Southern California. I'm here today to do my top 5 Classdojo tips or hacks, whatever you want to call them. I absolutely love Classdojo and I've used it for 3 years now. I've used it many different ways and I've kind of changed things around to fit it the way that I like it and fit the class that year. So I'm going to share with you some of the tips that I have that I've used with my Classdojo that has just made it more effective in my classroom. So tip number 1 is an easy one, and it's just to keep parents involved. So I try and post on my class story as a teacher so that all my parents can see it at least once a week, and I usually try and do it on Sundays so that parents can stay updated for the week. So I will add different events that we have going on, whether that be like spirit days or homework being due or projects being due, anything like that. I make sure to send that out on Monday or on Sunday so that parents can kind of be informed for what's going to be going on that week. I think that the more you keep parents involved on there, the more likely they are to log in and check because they know that things will be updated frequently, and the more that you kind of keep in contact with them and create that conversation with them, the more likely they are to check as well. Another thing that I do to make sure that all my parents are on there is I literally just keep sending the invitation, like the reminder that Classdojo offers. I will keep sending it to parents until they basically sign up. And there's still some parents that will never end up doing it, but I will get the majority because I feel like sometimes the papers just get lost or they get set down and then they plan to do it later and then it just ends up somewhere else. So what I do is like every week I'll just keep sending it until they sign up, and then eventually once I realize that they're just not going to sign up, then I'll just kind of let it go. And then when I start to have parent conferences, then with those parents I make sure to let them know that they're not on there and that it would be a great idea for them to add it. And one thing I always say, which maybe this isn't like the best thing to say to parents, but I say that it's great for emergencies as well because it's the easy way for me to contact all the parents. At my old school, we didn't have like the mass phone calls that that schools will send out. So we had a lockdown one day, and it was a quick and easy way for me to contact the parents and let them know that we were on a lockdown, but that everything was okay and that I would keep them updated as I, got the information as well. So I do always try and help parents. That it's just another thing that, the parents can keep updated with for anything if, there were to be an emergency. So my tip number 2 is to have some sort of reward system in place. So students need to understand that they're going to get some sort of reward for their good behavior. Having that plan in place and then letting students know like when they're going to get their reward so that they can have something to work toward. So I teach second grade and my students come in at the beginning of the year, obviously as just fresh first graders essentially. So at the beginning of the year, I just do, once you hit 20 points, then I just take your points away and you, or I erase your points, reset them, and then you just get to go get treasure box, and I just do that another day. So it's not super hard on me because I can just give them the treasure box whenever it is that they hit 20, and then they have that goal. So they know when they're getting close to 20 that they want to earn that 20 points. Probably about halfway through the school year, I will create more of a reward system. And the way I do that is I have certain quantities for different things that I know that the kids would like. So one of them is like you get to use colorful pens for a day, and they just get like a little basket of pens and they get to use those. So then the way I do that is because I mean, unless I just haven't figured it out yet, but Classdojo has no way that you can just take like a certain amount of points away from a student. So the way I do it is I actually have a negative point quantity, and it's just for 5, and then it says like redeemed points so that parents know like they didn't actually get bad behavior, it's just that they redeemed their points. And it will show up negative on their percentages, but I don't do much with the percentages, so that doesn't really matter to me. But I know some teachers do use that more, so that would be something that you have to think about. So they can redeem their points essentially like money. So then they can use 5 points for this, 5 points for that, and then I have a little sheet that they just fill out and it says like what they want. And I think I had 5, 10, 20, and then 30 point prizes. And it was just stuff that I knew that my students would enjoy. So then like 30 was they get to eat lunch with me. stuff like that. So my students really liked it last year. I just don't think that my students at this moment in time would be capable of like keeping track of those points and knowing like where each of them were getting spent, and I just think it would be a little too confusing. So I do think it's easier just to say like, okay, once you hit 20 you get treasure box, and then I'll reset your points and you kind of just start over. So that's the way that I've found it's most useful, but you obviously just need to do whatever's best for your class at that moment in time. So my third Classdojo tip is to give points to the entire class. So my students love when I'm able to give the entire class a point for something that they've done all together. So I like to think of this as teamwork and that we work together to earn points. So things like getting a compliment in the hallway, every student in the class will earn a dojo point for that. So if they've worked really hard to be quiet during a certain part of our day, specifically like centers or something, and I noticed they've been quiet for like maybe 5 minutes, then I will say, okay, everyone in the class has earned a whole Classdojo point. And I think it just builds that teamwork within the students, knowing that they're kind of all accountable for each other, and that one student could potentially ruin it for the whole class, and that they wouldn't earn those points as a class. My fourth Classdojo tip, my fourth and my fifth are actually my favorites. And my fourth one is something that someone shared with me, and it completely changed the way that I used Classdojo. And that is to allow students to award other students points. So the way I do this is I will say, wow, I really love the way that you're working. Why don't you go give yourself a point, and then find someone in the room who's working just as hard as you. And then that gives them that kind of control to find someone in the room who's working really hard. Now, at the second you say that, you'll see all the rest of the kids like, oh, and then they want to like be that person that is picked by the other student, and it's really cute to see. So I will allow them to, I may give them like a specific, I'll say, hey, go find someone who's working really quietly, or go find someone who's working really hard. And that's is more during independent time, and it saves me the time from having to pick out students who I think are working hard. It kind of gives them the control to do that as a class. And you just kind of have to encourage them to make sure that they're picking someone who's been working hard for a long time, and not just to pick their best friend. And I mean, it's going to happen, but at the same time, other kids like still will sit there and like pipe up and start working really hard when they know that someone's looking for other points. And then I also will use the random feature, and I'll let a student, I haven't done that as much this year, but towards the end of last year, I was letting my students, they would walk up to the iPad and then they would click random, and then whoever's name popped up on the screen, they would look at that person, kind of like gaze the classroom, look at that person and decide if they were worthy of receiving a point at that time. So then it kind of held the students accountable to always be on their best behavior, and they would not know that they earned the point. And then later, like the kid would come up to me and whisper in my ear like, oh, so-and-so got the point. And I'd say, wow, that was a really, really good choice. And then sometimes, you know, they would look at that person wasn't working very hard, and they would say, ooh, you know, that person didn't earn a point. And then you see all the rest of the kids who knew they weren't working very hard kind of be like, oh my gosh, what if it was me? So I think it's a great way to hold students accountable and just to kind of think about the way that they're acting in that moment. And my fifth and final Classdojo tip or hack is to let students give themselves their points. So I know this isn't as easy if you don't have a tech device to use. I specifically have an iPad in the classroom, and it's a really old one, and I just keep it in the same spot every day. And the students know that if they earn themselves a point, then they just go over there and give themselves the point. So, aw, man. I usually just let the students, I'll say, hey, you're working really hard, go give yourself a dojo point, because then I don't have to do anything, especially if I'm with a small group. I don't want to sit there and have to get out my phone, which is one thing that I know people don't necessarily like about Classdojo, is it is a little bit of work for the teacher, unlike a clip chart or something like that, where they can just say, hey, go move up your clip, and then the teacher doesn't have to do anything. So I will allow students to give themselves their points, and then it kind of gives them another sense of ownership because they're able to go on there. They feel special because they get to go like give themselves their point, and then they can also see quite often how many points that they actually have. And then I also have students take away their points, because I think that, again, gives them that ownership of, wow, I just lost myself a point right now, and how can I kind of make that better, and how can I fix that, rather than you being like, oh, you lost a point, and then getting on your phone and doing it, or getting on the iPad and doing it. So if you didn't have an iPad, I keep the iPad just in the room, and it's just on Classdojo at all times. But if you don't have an iPad, you could use like a Chromebook or something and just have it open to Classdojo. Anything like that where you can pull it up would work, and I think that it helped with me a lot. Like, I'm more willing to give out points because I don't have to do it. and then it just lets, like, the students love giving themselves their point. And then I also try and keep all my points like very specific to things that I say often. So I might say, hey, John, go give yourself a point for working hard. And then there's one literally on there that says working hard. So then they don't have to say anything again because they're like, oh, I was working hard. That's what she said. That's what I can give myself a point for. So I think it just makes it easier than to have all these different things, and then I don't speak in that way. So I do try and keep it very close to like things that I would say in the class, like, hey, give yourself a point for being so quiet. So those are my 5 Classdojo tips. And if you have any tips that you have that I did not say, then go ahead and leave them in a comment down below. And I just realized the other day when I was editing, or when I was rewatching my video, that I always say like, click the notification bell, which like the notification bell is not anywhere up here. I think it's like down here somewhere. So yeah. Anyway, so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and then hit that notification bell that's somewhere down here, down below. I will catch you guys in my next video, and see you guys later.